Hey everyone, this is Jorge Soto and you're watching Startups Unedited.
Hey everyone, this is Jorge Soto and you're watching Startups Unedited. Today I'm with Michael Seibel, who is a partner at Y Combinator, which is the most popular and exciting, I would say, incubator / accelerator. I mean, you guys are doing so many things now, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's Friday, it's early, you've been super patient, so I very much appreciate it. Why don't you take a quick second to kind of introduce yourself to the audience? How'd you actually get involved with startups? I mean, you've done some incredible things. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah, I guess I started doing startups 10 years ago. Went to college with a guy named Justin Kahn, and me, Justin, Emmett, and Kyle created this company called Justin TV. Went through YC in 2007 as founders, and then all kinds of companies kind of came out of that. So Justin TV became Twitch TV. It spun off a company called Social Cam. Justin went to start another company called Exec, and Kyle went to start another company called Cruise. And so it's been kind of an exciting 10 years.
Now, I would say that, Twitch and, Twitch is now with Twitter, right? Was that?
Amazon,
pardon me. I know that I spent some time at Twitter and they made a couple of sort of M&As in a very similar space. When we're talking about, finding product market fit, right, for a consumer product, which I think is distinctly different in many ways to like a B2B SaaS type technology. What are some tips that you would give founders about discovering or going through that process of discovering product market fit for their consumer app or desktop app?
I think that it really, really helps if you're your own user. That really, really helps. I think that's when things start to turn around, and that's kind of one of the ways that Justin TV morphed into Twitch, was that Emmett was a big gamer and that was the content that he liked to see on the site. I think the second thing that I always tell companies is don't fall in love with your V1. It takes a lot of iteration to figure out how to make a great product. And so a lot of times people will fall in love with whatever they build at first, and then when it doesn't work, they'll get discouraged. The better thing to do is to build a V1 extremely quickly so that you don't fall in love with it, and then get it in front of users as soon as possible, use it yourself, and make it better.
One thing that I struggled with when I did a consumer product about 10 years ago or so, I guess a little more now, time flies, right? Was really trying to get feedback from users that weren't my friends, that weren't, like my group or my network, from folks who are really, I felt, really going to give me meaningful feedback. What are some sort of advice or tips that you would give around, getting feedback from a larger sample size of users that are not within your network or even let's say your local community?
Well, I think for consumer products, it's totally okay if people on your network are your initial people getting user feedback from. I think that more often than not, it's the method of getting feedback that's tricky. So a lot of people will just ask their friends to download it and ask them how it is. That gives your friend the opportunity to just be polite, but not actually give you any good feedback. Typically, what we would do is we would sit people down and we would give them a task. And so we would sit them down, everyone would kind of gather around, everyone who was involved in building it. And we would give the person a task. So we would say, hey, look, your friend on Facebook mentioned that he was using this new product and you want to go check it out and maybe take a video with it. And you'd actually watch them using it. I think that a lot of your core assumptions about UI and usability gets thrown away when you watch someone actually using the product. Usually would run 5 of those types of interviews every month. I think the other thing that we would do is we would be really, really focused on making a small group of people love a product as opposed to a large group of people kind of like it. I think people who build successful consumer products, oftentimes their PR teams make them kind of edit the story afterwards. Mm-hmm. And it feels as though the products were launched and then they just blew up. When in reality, there was, for most of these products, there was some time where things weren't going well. And so I think that it's really important to not feel discouraged in the beginning. Oftentimes I tell founders, like, pivot has become this cool phrase, but if you haven't spent a year or two really digging in on something, you don't know whether there's any gold there or not. And it's too easy to pivot now.
So, I think what I'm hearing is really being able to dig in, spend a year or two, right, at a minimum, to start to validate, hey, do we really have a product here that makes sense? Is this really the product market fit that we're trying to achieve? And one question that I have also, Michael, is how much feedback do you actually sort of implement from these users versus your initial vision? Like, you sat down, you're like, I'm going to build this application. Here's the pain point. Here's my vision. You start to actually, release it to the market. And then you realize, man, there's all this feedback here. What is the balance, in your opinion, Michael, between, again, implementing feedback from users and then staying true to your vision?
I don't know what staying true to your vision means. I think everyone's vision is to try to solve a problem that they think people have. And the vision is the initial vision is the first version of what they think that solution is. But if that vision can't grow and change and adapt to, users who have that problem giving you feedback, then I don't really understand what the point of it is. Too often people overemphasize genius ideas. I don't really believe in genius ideas. So when I think about this game, I really think, like, if you are true to the problem you're solving, and if you're getting feedback from users who have that problem, and if you're giving yourself that feedback, I mean, if it's a consumer product and you're not the number one user, you really got to ask yourself why. To me, a lot of the kind of benefit comes there. I think a lot of times people try to do what I call kind of MBA style startups, where they're trying to build products for other people. They perceive a problem that they don't have, and they don't understand it very well, and then they try to build a product to solve that problem. And then they get frustrated when that solution isn't that great. But if it's not a problem that you have, especially when it comes to consumer, and you can't really gut test whether or not the solution is helping you, it's very hard to get this done.
Totally. When we talk about building MVPs, and I think that that's in line with this whole process of discovering product market fit, what is what's a good sort of baseline sort of, framework to implement when we're thinking about, rolling out an MVP that's not too complex, not too over-engineered, but just right? And I know that's hard to kind of answer quickly, and it's subjective.
To be honest, I don't really care. Like, the MVPs, there is no such thing as just right. Like, the MVP is just the V1. The V1 is garbage. The V1 means you're just started walking down the road. So, like, I don't care. I don't think people should care. I think you should care about your problem. But, when you first learn about a new type of math and you do your first problem, usually you get it wrong. So, even though you kind of understand the problem a little bit, usually your solution's wrong. So, I just don't believe that startups are about imagineering everything in your head perfectly, bringing that into the world, and then sitting back as everyone uses it. I think it's trying to attack a problem that either you have, or that friends and family or people in your community have, and then the slow grinding process of making your product a little bit better and a little bit better for those people who have that problem.
Awesome. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to give us this wisdom here this morning. Really, really appreciate it. If folks want to follow you, let's say on social media or any specific, personal blogs, what's the best handle to reach you?
At MW Seibel, Seibel is my Twitter handle. That's probably the best place to find me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, man.